I'm Brad Berry, CEO of GPSA. Just run through a quick bit of housekeeping. So I'm sure you've probably been here before, no doubt. If you haven't, the toilets are that way to my right. And what we'll do in format is we'll hear a little bit from John, just on why we're holding the election forum. We'll also then go to candidates for introductions. We'll try and keep that fairly short if we can, 3 to 5 minutes. Then we'll have a few questions from GPSA, and then we'll open the floor for some Q&A. So hopefully we all learn a lot tonight, and we are also recording as well. So without further ado, John Gladgo, the Chair of GPSA.
Thanks, Brad. It's great to be here in Riverton tonight. So, as I mentioned, I'm the chair of GPSA, which is representing 4,500 grain growers here in South Australia. I also recognise that we have Steve Hall, our deputy chair here tonight as well, who's from Riverton, and so he's a local representative on our board. So make sure that you will utilise Steve and hit him up on any grains issues. So he can bring them back and be the best representative that he can be for our industry. Special welcome to our candidates here tonight, and also I recognise the fact we have Mrs. Griffin and Nicholas and Barney here in the room as well, so make sure you grab them over coffee later on as well, which would be great. We as GPSA believe that these election forums are a really important thing for us to do. This is a very significant time in our state's history. It's a very significant election for us here in South Australia, and there's lots of things that we as GPSA is advocate for on behalf of growers, and a lot of those are things which I think are going to come up tonight as well as state election issues. Things like land use and encroachment from household building, things like renewables, mining, transmission lines, roads, connectivity, right to farm. There's a whole heap of things which are really significant in this part of the world, very topical, and especially in this electorate. And also, I think the fact that this is actually a new electorate, and so that makes it a bit of an unknown, doesn't it? Current sitting members who are standing against each other as non-equality candidates. So it makes it an absolutely fascinating election, I think, that we're going to be seeing in 5 or 6 weeks' time. So this is an opportunity for you to ask questions and for us to have a discussion and make statements. So please utilise it well. We are recording it as well. And thank you once again for coming. I think that's great. We'll get the show on the road.
Thank you, John. Alright, we'll get straight into it. So we'll get candidates to introduce themselves, give an outline why they're running, and the biggest issue that they've heard during their campaign so far for the election. We'll start with you.
Good to go. Thank you, Brad. My name is Penny Pratt. I'm your local member of Parliament. The electorate is currently called Frome. I've represented this region for 4 years officially as the state member of Parliament. And while I would love to accuse you, John, of stealing my speech because you hit all the high points, I think it just goes to show that actually we're on the same track. But I would dispute one thing, that is that I don't see this as a new electorate. It's having a name change. But what we are facing isn't new. We are in the fight of our lives in the farming communities here on all the topics that you mentioned, John, and a few more. And I would like to thank you both, John Gladgo and Terry, and the GPSA team for enabling an evening like this. I know that the meeting that you held in Maitland last week was really successful, and I'm sure that people on the peninsula are looking forward to their opportunity, not just to grill the candidates in the field, but it is an opportunity for questions from farmers to be heard by your group, by your industry body. I think the catchphrase, my big issue, what are we fighting for, is a very straightforward phrase that is a very complicated matter. That is right to farm. What am I hearing? What has come up over 5 years in my candidacy and representation, and why do I care about it so much? The question about our right to farm perhaps speaks to me because that's my upbringing. I grew up on the Bolivia Plains, a 4-acre farm of pretty dodgy soil type, I have to say, the sandy plains of Sandaroo. We face impact of rust through the 80s, and I watched my dad drive around in the tractor, just pulling his hair out, thinking, how do I make ends meet? How do I get more yield from the same amount of land? And he did a crazy great thing, and he sold. The pressure to sell is still felt keenly in our communities, but I think there are additional pressures. And I see pincer manoeuvre happening in our farming areas, and that is the southern assault we are experiencing from more and more housing as part of the urban sprawl coming out from Gawler, Roseworthy, Virginia, and Two Wells, onto the best farming land that we have in the state. We can put a house anywhere. You cannot transplant that high-yielding soil out into less productive areas, but there are opportunities for the houses that we need to be built to be placed elsewhere, and that is something that the opposition this term has really fought for in the Parliament. How do we meet the needs of the state? How do we put forward practical, helpful suggestions about alternative locations for housing, but draw a line in the arable soil and say, but it cannot happen here. Roseworthy is ground zero for where that's happening. I talked about a pincer manoeuvre from the south and the north. So while we are fighting our right to farm down south at Roseworthy, we are also in the fight of our lives as we grapple with the looming implementation and construction of a transmission line from Bundy Robertstown through to the city. That is getting renewable energy to market, but the market really is the city consumer. And what concerns me is that we, farming communities, continue to carry the infrastructure burden, but we're invisible to the consumer that needs it. So we carry the burden, it's on our land, but we're not seeing the equitable share of costs. So there are a few of us who were in this room last week having this conversation with the National Commissioner. So right to farm is the big issue that I will continue to focus on because I think it's what you care about the most.
My name is David Payton, and I'm currently the Deputy Mayor of Adelaide Plains Council. For those that don't know the area, that's south of the sea, so from the areas of Two Wells, north of Grace Plains, taking the coast, and then to the east of it. So we are experiencing all that. We're experiencing the housing growth in Two Wells, and starting in Nullarbor as well, while also fighting with everything that is primary production in the Nullarbor area, Long Plains area, Grace Plains area. I stood for council in 2022 for one reason and one reason only, and that was because I love living in rural communities. It is the be all and end all. Walking the streets, talking to people is what it's all about. And I saw what was coming I've been involved at all levels of that, from the developers themselves, our main developer of Michael Hickman, through to working with our ratepayers associations, working with our priority producers, and understanding, listening, more importantly, listening to everything they say. I don't know everything. I've sat in ministers' offices, listening to conversations and going, I don't know what they're talking about, but I'm learning. And then when I get to a point where I'm actually the decision maker, I can hopefully make the right decision. Not necessarily on what I think or what I want, but on what I've heard and what I've listened to and what those that are affected actually want. So why this? I just want to see it being labelled. I've seen what I can affect at the local level, and my local level of Adelaide Plains is now going all the way through the plan. Same problems, same issues. So I'm just passionate about that. To finish what I'm hearing, I was here a week ago and Penny was, and the power lines go through my property. So I was here for a number of reasons. They do go through my property, intentionally, but also to listen. Just to listen. What are the local concerns? What are their problems? What do they need addressed? So what I can bring is that I'm on the ground level. I walk the streets. I'll be at football on Saturday. It's all about listening. Thank you.
Hello. So my name is Shirley. I'm with the Justice Party. I'm a teacher, and I've been a teacher for about 7 years. I've spent a lot of time teaching at Clare High School, and then I moved to Riverton High School, and just this year I've moved to Trinity College in Florida. And so my big concern and my reason for running in this campaign was education. And I'm really concerned around the lack of awareness on issues such as drought, on global warming, and the lack of conversation there is around how farming is a big contributor, and specifically agriculture farming is the biggest contributor to global warming. Now, it is the uncomfortable truth, but it is the inconvenient truth, but I think it is something that we need to be talking about and we need to be addressing when we're looking at issues such as global warming, and specifically here, the drought that we have been dealing with. So when it comes to an independent study into the drought, there should be a lot more conversation around how farming practices are contributing to this weather extreme that are only just now starting and are only going to continue to get worse. So I like to see more education in schools, particularly around agriculture education into farming practices, and I'd especially like to see more education and conversation, quality and conversation around these extreme weather patterns and what is actually contributing to that. Because to have a conversation that's only focusing on greenhouse gases is not going to give us a solution that is actually going to work. So I agree with Penny in that the conversation is the right to farm, but my question is the right to farm what? And we really need to be bringing that into the discussion and conversation. We want to have any chance at any meaningful solutions. And particularly to not see this in the agricultural programs in the schools is very concerning, because I don't think we're equipping the younger generations with the information that they need to have in order to best address every single environmental problem that we are dealing with from the local to the global level. Yes.
Good evening, my name is Frank Piccolo. I'm the current member of LIFE. I have a history in local government, council for a number of years. I only became mayor right now, and in 2006 I became a LIFE. When I was first elected, and the LIFE elected covered County Life well, and Huge, Rosalie's, Really, and Rosalie, so basically farming communities. The farming ground has changed, and those areas will have other records. The new electorate from Ngadjuri takes in parts of our existing electorate. It starts at Woods, and takes in parts of both villages in my electorate, and also Woodville, River, and also Woodville. And so geographically, about a third of the new seats is now operating involved in as an MP parts of time. Why am I running? It's quite simple. I want to be strong advocate on issues which impact on this community. And not only advocate and bring it to the vision of what needs to be done, but also deliver on real practical outcomes. It's one thing to advocate and make a lot of noise, it's a different thing to actually deliver real outcomes which actually change people's lives every day. One of the things I've heard so far, things about infrastructure, road infrastructure is very one issue I've heard. Hospital Forest Highway, I've heard about and other points, and we've made an announcement on that. I've heard about something else, we've made an announcement in terms of education and training opportunities for young people, and we've made an announcement for community in terms of some funding for school, not only that, but also funding also free. One other issue is obviously the farming community. The drought that we had continues to have an impact on farmers, and we obviously try and find a solution to make farmers survive in a way that we can support them. Recently, the government announced some money is not running back in this area. Certainly, will help people in those surviving communities. Land use complex, certainly an issue which needs to be addressed. And that we need to work out what it is that New Zealand doesn't occur and will minimise the impact on communities. Not only farming communities, also the conflicts which occur on farming, agriculture. We have oftentimes conflicts between great mining industry and traditional crop maintenance, and many of those sort of issues come up on a regular basis, and we need to do those sort of conflicts as well. Water security. All the communities out there, there's a big issue. I've been working with a group of people in Clare, Manura, Waterloo, Harbour, and also Auckland communities, and we have actually come up with a study and work out what is the needs for that community and how we can address those. And that was only announced last week for that, so we need to provide practical solutions to real issues. Housing is in terms of the communities I've spoken to, some smaller communities, are really keen to actually increase their housing opportunities. Not only because it keeps the town alive, it also provides some accommodation for doctors and nurses, resources that we need in the communities, but also provide opportunities for workers and workforce in the rural areas. And the shortage of housing that the community and people in the area need to address that. Small communities are really important to reach another small town, and they're important, and that's why I thought last national conference of small communities was very under. We came up with some practical ideas on how to support our communities to thrive. It's really important. There's a interdependence, and that's what our farming community, like the other farming communities suffer, and it's fully covered. And so, those stuff will be able to make sure we need to support. So there's some neat things which I've heard. There's something I'd like to obviously work on with the community. I am part of the analysis team and field analysis directly, and I'm part of the
questions. We'll start with one from the grain industry end. The proposed Northern Transmission Project associated infrastructure has raised significant concerns around land access, compensation, and long-term impacts on farming business. If elected, how will you ensure landholders are treated fairly, consulted properly, and compensated appropriately when make infrastructure crosses productive farmland? Let's start with David.
Priority is the farmer. So the owner of the property is the priority. I'm not going to run from the fact that one of our key policies is net zero is no longer. It's gone. So that probably affects the power line since they're unhappening because of net zero and the journey to net zero. The problem is the easiest one is that in theory they wouldn't occur. But if they were to have to occur still, then it's absolutely priority number one is the property owner. And that's one thing that came up a week ago here was what rural communities are having to do for the push to net zero so that those in the city can gain the possible benefits of it without messing up their environment. It's not their farmland, it's got all the panels and power lines and whatever. Yeah, they're the ones that want to make benefits from it. So priority is the problem.
True, we'll go to you next. No worries. Penny?
Thanks. Sorry. Me? Well, if a herd level government was elected, we are making sure that our communities understand that there is a choice. We want to be focused on affordability. We think that that is a big impacting homes at the moment when it comes to affordability of power. The question is specifically about transmission lines and very specifically about the NTX project that has been pitched to our communities across all provinces. So many of us were here last week in this room, including David and I, listening to feedback from locals who are still discovering that this project may be coming through their property and renting development. So, excuse me. The Commissioner's presence here last week, I thought, was a very important signal that there are independent champions in the country looking at what I would say is becoming a saturation of renewable infrastructure. Most people I talk to accept that the renewable projects that we've got are staying. Turbines, battery, solar. There has been no responsibility across state or federal governments to map the localities. It's been ad hoc. And so we end up now with projects out east around Robertson and Bundy, where that energy's got to get to market, but it is a zigzag consideration for electromagnetic to map that transmission line, which is why it's taking so long. So the opposition is focused on affordability for families, that includes farmers. We're concerned about the risk to devaluation, fire risk, maintenance, connectivity, and productivity. And I'm probably running out of time.
Thanks for that. The key to influencing the outcome of farmers in the community is to make sure that you influence decision makers, whatever that issue is. And decision makers in this case are independent agencies, and that's what ranking responsibility to start in terms of influencing that decision, not the decision maker, certainly that. So the first thing, and hearing firsthand from farmers how the transition might be impact on the productivity, efficiency, how they manage their farms, and what is the least, which is the route which has the least impact. So again, we focus on finding a practical solution and minimize And to that extent, not only have I been working with the farmers group, but also the organising meetings with the electorate is the first decision maker, where they get off route, and the idea is to have face-to-face discussion, and they fully understand the impact of the proposal have, and essentially develop viable alternatives. As part of that, they outline what I should try, seeing what that looks like there, Zoom, and make sure that we have an option that's least effective. The reality is our energy needs as a community and our own increasing. So we need to meet that energy. We can use solution now, and I'll discuss our view essentially that we are aware with changing, and for example, how we need to some broadly European Union rules about whether they actually trade with or not. And so those rules mean that we need to regional requirements. One is going to shift in, but that, I'm sure that will happen in the future too. So we can say, we don't want this, that's fine. The reality is something we can't, and we therefore make sure we're well placed with our solutions, make sure that our farms are not going to be impacted. I don't think it's helpful for us to pretend rules are changing over the years. So we need to make sure that we maintain our farms' productivity, efficiency, being prepared, working with government, improving our R&D system. So I've been doing, I'll continue to be reflective, look at farm groups, look at farms in this community, and have direct access to decision makers making decisions. For example, I've been able to organise meetings with farmers with the energy minister, and the energy minister develops insurances for that group. Okay, people need to do that process. It's when you talk to the decision makers face to face, they get an understanding of what's involved. A lot of people in the city, camera, working with desktops. It's when they meet face to face and people with stories, they actually change their mind. It's really important to do that. So I'll do that. So my first aim is to make sure is that we minimise the impact on the farming community, to make sure that they are viable, and can operate efficient and be competitive as they are now.
Sure.
Yes, I would say that the main priority is to compensate landowners and to minimise any disruption for them for their business activities. My thinking is to go with expert advice to make sure that the energy system is set up is to maximum effectiveness for all of South Australia.
We'll move on to the second question before we throw it over to the audience to ask some questions to the candidate. Here's an agriculture and community related question around roads. So a lot of the grain and agriculture industries carry produce through this area on one of the roads that are connected in Rome at the moment and the new electorate. If elected, what we do to improve road maintenance and public safety for the zone. Let's start that other end with Tom.
I agree with what you just said, and I think we announced a few weeks ago to $90 million investment in the highway, running from Rosebery to Clare Valley, in addition to freight, it also impacts those communities on the highway, so we also need to speak on taking investment and essential market as for people who live in those communities. Ideally, we'd like to spend more, but in terms of road maintenance, and one of our from farmers is how the quality of road maintenance has slipped over the last we have to understand that road maintenance was prioritised with by the previous government. $5 billion contract. Look at how many $5 billion contract in the private price road maintenance. Previously, road maintenance was undertaken by the department. We have local gangs, people living in those communities, people that are covered with those communities, and then the profits are high because you're in the street and better out when you have. Now we have these huge companies who give them contracts, subcontract, service contract, and all these things that we supply. Doesn't mean that you spend on the itself. Like $5 billion was contracted out previously with the government, all the records, needs, etc. And so we've lost that quality control. We're spending more money as government, agencies trying to supervise these contracts and ensure that they do it. And in fact, only last week, one of the contractors in Southeast was informed from one of the contractors for quality of their work. And the government's reviewing money. So we're talking about maintenance contracts is important to make sure that we get money, value for money, and money. Unfortunately, contracts up to 30 years each year. We need to write back as soon as we can without breaching the laws. So that's one thing. So we are committed to bringing those contracts in the government. We can, because we do know it's either the bottom of the communities is that we have better outcomes when we do that. And we need to speak up. We made a huge investment in Riverton Highway. We have other proposals at the moment, not unfortunately to announce or mention, but we have other things we need to make sure that they do separate and improve the efficiency. And that was one of the reasons we actually did this partly in the Riverton Highway. But the problem is, some of the local roads, which are council control, are shut at the moment, and we need to look at working everything to bring that to scratch. So, all I can say is that I can advocate to make sure that from other governments, and if you agree, no one else has done it, we, you do not, but it's your heart, you can as well. If you feel that we should do that and not because we've got great access to government to deliver on these outcomes.
Thank you, Ngadjuri.
I agree the roads around here would do with preventive maintenance, and so I would see investment in road maintenance around the area to improve public safety. I'd also like to bring back a greater policing presence because I think there's a lot of unsafe driving going on, which is adding to the lack of safety in the area, and I'm concerned about money for police presence. So, improving roads and police.
Over to Dale.
Roads.
Yeah, what we can do to improve road maintenance is
Fight for the area. Now, I could either sit here and promise the next year we'll spend $800 million on the road, knowing we're not going to be able to, or ever have to pay for it, or I can do it and go, well, we didn't really care about it, drive on that road the last 4 years, but we care at the moment, why would that be? So all I would say is that if I was representing this area, that it would be to argue for better roads. And roads need to be looked at as an asset and not as a cost. Because they're an asset to our transport, to our farmers. I spend a lot of time on dirt roads, walking to farmers, and even single going to grain road just changes everything. Decreases the cost on top, decreases the cost of cleaning trucks. So that is a high priority. One thing that I did pick up on was less government, better. I reckon I trust a private company doing a much better job and at a much better price building a road for me than government. So I'd actually be less government and getting that confusion between local council and departments institution sorted. Most councils, especially councils in this area, probably have budgets of $3 to $5 million a year to spend on roads. Doesn't go very far. That's about 5 kilometres. So being able to pull from a better pool so that your roads aren't determined by the size of your council budget, but it's actually what you warrant. If you warrant a new road, then you should just as much priority as Main North Road going through Salisbury or wherever it may be. It's time to bring the attention on the north to the north. The north is not Playford. The north is not Salisbury, Manapara, Angle Vale, Roseburg, Kittebury. That's not the north. We are the north. North is rural, farming towns. So we need to respect that and give them a voice.
We're going to spend $1 billion. The Liberal Party has announced that her Liberal government will spend $1 billion just on road maintenance. That's not new roads, that is maintaining and catching up on what is a $2.9 billion backlog of road maintenance. How do we know that? Because the RAA and GPSA have been leading the charge on calculating the cost. The cost to our truck drivers, freight corridor that Brett was talking about. Trucks are going past tonight as we talk. That is your hard work and Treasury's taxes on the way through the town. We're going to spend $1 billion on our roads. And not just on one road, but on as many as we can get to. We know that the Department of Transport has got a list and we want to influence that list. While the Horrocks Highway is the road I'm on to get home, we know its nickname is the Horror Highway. It has had its fair share of investment. The two state and federal Liberal governments in an 80-20 split excuse me, have invested money from Wilmington in 5 tranches all the way through. The last part is what I care about the most. It's the roseworthy white knuckle ride. We know it's like riding a wake in a boat. You hit the terror and you are hitting clear air. The roads that I'm focused on are the 9 mile I've driven all my life between Ballard Harbour and Manala. It's World's End Highway from Robertstown Point Pass to Uganda. It's the east-west roads that get ignored. I have better driving experiences on metal roads than I do on some of the roads that we see. And the frustration is not just the road, the poor state of the roads, but when we see any government sending the contractor out to repair, we endure the roadworks for as long as they have to go. And for Jamestown Spalding, it was 14 months, only to see it crumble again. So the quality is important. I think if the government has a frustration with its current contractor, it's had 4 years to do something about that. But we are going to spend $1 billion to play catch up on road repairs.
Thank you all. All right, we're going to throw it to the audience for some questions. So before you ask a question, just state your name and where you're from. Brandon's going to roll your mic. So hands up if you want to ask a question.
This is Tony. Doing this Monday on the Horrocks Highway. We get to Roseworthy and that roundabout was a complete disaster. And they're talking about building another one on the Tilly Highway intersection. And whoever, that roundabout would be fine in Unley, but they want to send the people who design them to Queensland to see what a real roundabout looks like for transport.
Sorry, what was your name?
Oh, sorry, Michael Miller.
We'll throw that. Tony, you want to answer that one first, but we'll give the opportunity for the rest of the candidates to answer that too.
Reality is Rosebery is there, and you have lots of
in the truck from school and everything. As I said, it's quite much right, and I worry about the future of Forest Highway and the way that it funds into the Sturt Highway and here. Yes, we know a third roundabout is coming at William Lakes, and while Tony's explained the history of the project, it isn't a solution to how we all continue to use it. Bruce Heinrich from Clare and other freight operators have to navigate it daily, probably twice. And we know that a turbine blade and a trailer jackknife trying to navigate the first iteration of that roundabout. I think we should be having fights with engineers because they don't understand the diversity of vehicles that need to navigate from city to country. Roundabouts are great, go to Canberra. Roundabouts, engineering in Queensland is a sight for sore eyes. I think we need to think bigger when it comes to future-proofing and planning our roads, our road highways. We have got space, even there where those roundabouts are, to make them bigger and to allow for dual lanes if we wanted them. Who's having those big conversations? That was done 10 years ago. But I'm very concerned about our freight corridors, even the Malala Road to Two Wells. Our freight corridors are being cut off as they enter the city, and there are some big conversations I think GPSA and REA can help us continue to have so we get the planning right.
You'd be amazed how many departments that roundabout would gone through, how many people would have ticked off on it, how many people would have had to say, and how many of those people wouldn't know where it is. And that's government 101. It's an industry of its own. We'll work with as many other government agencies as we can to get something done. Fingers crossed we get it right, and we'll work together. We had a roundabout in 2 miles. And I'll politely call it roundabout. For about 2 years, maybe a little less, wasn't round because they hadn't quite worked out purchasing land and other things. So they put in 3/4 of the roundabout, and then the final bit was a straight line. And it was that way for well over 12 months. Look, again, interesting to say we're not going to put housing on Port Wakefield Road because we're not going to put lights on Port Wakefield Road, yet Garth says we're going to put housing on Port Wakefield Road. So, I don't know. Who do you believe? You believe the department that's Garth says we're going to put housing on Port Wakefield Road? Or are you going to believe that we're not putting housing on Port Wakefield Road because we're not going to put traffic lights? I've personally seen the plans for the overpasses on Port Wakefield Road. So somebody's thinking about it. And the worst traffic lights on Port Wakefield Road, which is River Lane, I believe weren't supposed to be there in the first place. That was supposed to be an overpass.
Sheree, did you want to go? All right, Brendan.
Steve Ball, farmer, just down the road here, and also a board member of GPSA. This is a personal question, but it goes to a deeper level. But today, my son and I, we are putting 200 metres of water pipe between a couple of paddocks, and it took us a couple of hours. We recently talked to SA Water to put a water pipe to the west of the town here, and they said it was going to cost between $750 to $1,000 per metre to put a new water pipe to connect, to get a metre up the hill. I would spend the wages from the son and I would have been a couple of grand at the most to do 200 metres. I asked the SA Water whether this can be looked at, and they said no, that's charging free, and so the project we were looking at was going away. That's the background to my question. where is the oversight in the government and what is being done to rein in costs that are being put on the communities, and particularly communities outside of Adelaide? So yes.
Let's answer the question. If you're elected, what will you do on water infrastructure costs? Let's start with you, Penny.
Thanks, Steve. Water infrastructure, I think you get 4 answers tonight, and so we should engage on that. Whether it's the Manure Primary School that has no mains water, the kids get their drinking water from ore. When the power goes out, the parents come in and get the generator cranking. And if that doesn't work, there's no toilets and there's no drinking water, and the kids go home. Water infrastructure, whether it's for grape growers, for household living, or for livestock, it's the essential commodity. It's the secret ingredient, and it gets more and more expensive the further north you go. We know that the drought has really hurt households and farms hard, and we've seen more shuttles running. Standpipes have a waiting line on. And the question is more specific to your project, but task to government for those who may get elected. I met with the Minister for Water a few years back as Manure and RR were in our electorate. You were asking me similar questions. To connect mains to the Manure community, so it's not just the school, it's the footy oval, the CFS truck cannot fill up in town, it has to go to Saddleworth, fill up and then park at its station. To connect mains from Montero was going to be $1 million per kilometre. That was the answer. And I was told, never going to happen. But if we think about how $13 million can be spent by the government on all sorts of other projects, it doesn't seem so outrageous. Water is essential for our communities to thrive and survive. We need it for housing, but we need it for farming, we need it for small business, we need it for tourism. And so the challenge certainly is for the current government and the incoming government to reflect on how SA Water sets its pricing. I can tell you from top to bottom, north to south, Clare to Wells. Pricing, potability, pressure, supply. There are a lot of issues that relate to how we access water. And I have a lot of frustrations about how that is the handbrake on our business communities, where we've seen friendly nursing homes in Freeling set to be mothballed because pressure in the main street of Freeling is so low, we can't sign off on sprinklers to code. Water infrastructure is critical. I won't drag the great goals into it, but if we ask people, do you want more water, the answer, of course, is yes. About $1 million a kilometre or $1,000 per metre, we shouldn't be outpricing the most precious commodity we need to survive.
We're not currently facing a cost of living crisis, it's a cost of government. And that's as simple as it gets. We have a federal government who wanted to spend $1 billion on a conference. The jet setters from all over the world to come in. And the first place he goes to get support is his main South Australia. First place he goes is you get the support and yep, let's do this. So you cannot tell me that the reason we don't have proper water supply in the north is based on dollars. You just can't. If we're willing to spend $1 billion on a conference, $5 billion on overseas aid, then it's not a money issue, it's a priority issue. And I'll tell you what the priority is the vote size. There is not enough votes in rural areas of this country to make two major parties listen and deliver. If I can put in a pipe that's a metre long, and there's a kilometre long, and there's 1,000 homes on it, there's 2.5, possibly 3,000 boats walking. I put that same kilometre pipe up through here somewhere, and it may be on one person's property. Think, I may be completely wrong here. I reckon I'm not. So just think about that. This is not a cost issue. This is an agenda. This is a priority issue. And I'll let you in on something. If you want to be around the Clare region on the 21st of February, I will be there, not by myself, to make a major policy announcement in regards to how we will fix water in the north. And it's been given a tick, it's been given the okay, it can be done. It's not going to be an outlandish promise that can't be delivered on. That's not me, don't believe in that. You're going to say you're going to do something and do it. February 21st. Sure.
So water is obviously incredibly important for business, family, household, and our community. I wouldn't be accepting prices like that when needing to place in new infrastructure. Water infrastructure is a high priority and something that if we're getting these exorbitant prices just for a couple of metres of pipe, that's not acceptable, and there's clearly other alternatives that need to be looked at when infrastructure can certainly be done at much more reasonable and cheaper prices. So whatever SA Water is saying costs, that's not acceptable, and I certainly would be looking at putting a high priority on water infrastructure in the area.
Thanks, Brett. Wood infrastructure, as I mentioned, really high remarks and security. These are high priorities, very important attention. And there are farmers from Waterloo, Ngadjuri, Palmer, all farmers there, and Riverton farmers, I should say. And there are also people from the Clare Valley, Clare itself, people who work in the wine industry, business, etc. The reason I've been mentioning is that we need to demonstrate the benefits to the economy of the increase in water supply. And when we do that, we can actually put a business case for economically, and if that water was holds up for activity, it is at the moment, then actually that water will also then flow to residents. You know, so you bring water to, because that will subsidise the water to residential areas. So that's the one. In terms of the cost, I don't know the costs of that, Stephen, but what I do know is it's a regulated water authority, it's regulated by the Services Commission, SA, and it improves its pricing structure, and it's supposed to be part of competitive market, where because it's a water monopoly, you can't just charge what you want, there's to be some sort of market-based pricing. What I can say, we have taken water structure seriously. That's why we invested $1.5 billion to make sure we deliver water and deliver more on priorities. I know people mock Roseworthy and too well tonight. I think there are people who actually deserve to be equally good, but equally good. And so I think that delivering water is serious, so we can keep house prices down, which is really important for affordability, practical reality of affordability, and making sure the government's providing this new infrastructure to support that. And that's why we're putting out there. So in terms of this region, I'm certainly working with residents at the moment. I'll work on a water security project. I don't know the answer to how that works. It's certainly what we need to do because we can either understand how our government works, work with it, and work to our advantage. We tend to say that all government's bad, and just turn our back on government and nothing happens. I prefer to be practical and work out how government works and work with the community to get the best outcomes year and identify what the needs are for those years I mentioned, and also provide recommendations about what the short, medium, and long-term solutions. Some of the long-term solutions is also about upgrading the system, the network, because the network is losing capacity at the moment, and so how we actually improve storage for these communities, so do that access to water, but also need to appreciate that remote, not about the source as well, and we need to work out how we actually use our water more efficiently and support farmers and communities who work efficiently, but also look at resources and how we do that. So, sorry to not answer your questions there, but I wish it was that simple, but the reality is it's an area which hasn't been addressed. A lot of noise has been made about it, but we actually need to provide some practical solutions and maybe to help with the community to provide real practical solutions.
Thank you. Have we got another question from the audience? Within reason.
Yeah. Magic experience that I worked for the last 3 years, being a January. As of Christmas last year, with a rural care breakout in the media, we didn't have any more care children off through from school. Since both wife and a few other things as well, tried flying through there since then actually started off. Able to calculate that like a couple of years. We're still letting you go, having to reduce hours work, just to try and get that on the goal to make it on tough time.
Yep, question. We farmers need good communities as well, and childcare and education are really important. So let's take that again. We'll start with Tony.
One more point, and another few years ago, we spoke about the same sort of issue, where families not only shouldn't be working out, but also taking their kids to other schools, which have access to local school fathers as well. So, real issue. Now, governing councils have the power to decide who have a mosh, and basically they to manage their own resources. So, is important for all countries and the other thing we have working at the moment is sort of advice from ministers is that if they come up with a proposal, Microsoft chooses to get a startup funding, get it going, or we get on the cost of doing the school still have to fund as well. And that's actually what other schools do it. So key for those school needs is the right. I was studying with school, one of the first 2 months, things that we up to me, but I think amazing inquiries, but in the context of also the 3-year-olds, the salaries of the 3-year-olds in the mind, that sort of thing, and actually have resources to do that for children extraction. So you need to have better understanding what the need is and work out what possible solutions are and how we can help this company at least put it on.
Points like that, our school, our care. Like every community has one, Auburn has one, Selwyn has one, Marley has one, and now we're just lost idea. There's no notice.
You lost, sorry?
We've lost it, there's no more for the private school students, there's nothing here available anymore.
You know why you lost it?
No, because I think they took the community guard program on rural care here, so then they don't have staff anymore, so now there's what? For the private school students.
Talk me out and look at what we do, get through some other impact.
Yeah, in terms of having Osh, what would be the closest internet in Osh?
Satellite park takes a new one, so Watervale for us.
I would think maybe looking at distances that people have to travel to access the Osh and making a restriction around those distances so that if it is a significant distance, that there is funding for schools like Selwyn so that they can ensure they can start an Osh for the community people there.
situation where being a stay-at-home mum was a badge of honour. She dropped me off at school every day, picked me up after school every day, she had afternoon tea on the table every day, and it was a badge of honour. We now demonise those who want to be stay-at-home mums, like something that's wrong with it. And the cost of everything that we have to purchase now, from housing to a loaf of bread to a carton of milk, has also meant that you have to have two incomes. So when the mum wants to be the stay-at-home and look after the kids, she doesn't have a choice anymore. She's got to go on work. And I'm talking to a lot of families in that situation, and they always say the income that mum's earning is only just covering the cost of putting them into care. So you almost go, well, to my opinion, and this is to not go against dads as well, I was a stay-at-home dad. I was a stay-at-home dad with my kids from their age of, my oldest at the time was about 4. Didn't work for 13 years. I was a stay-at-home dad because my wife had earned twice the money I could. We need to get back to that if you want to, because you want to look at what's changing in our communities with the kids on the streets, the violence, the vandalism, and everything else. We weren't doing it 40 years ago because you had guidance from mum or dad being at home and looking after it. So the perfect answer is get mum or dad back at home. That's the perfect scenario. If that's probably unrealistic, then fund the services. Again, it's a choice. We can afford it. We're the richest country in the world. So if we're not spending the money on it, it's a choice. Ready?
Thank you for raising it. It's really important that we don't just stay focused tonight on farming practice, but we understand what it means to run a farm, and that is to run a family and to be connected to the closest services wherever they may be. Workforce is a big barrier to a lot of the services we want to see in my electorate, and childcare. While I've spent a lot of time talking about border security tonight, childcare really is invisible. And it's a barrier to mums and dads being able to work and bring in more money. There really aren't many options anymore for households to be single income. And you're already on the road travelling to get to the childcare or the OSH or family daycare. So it's really important that you raise tonight that Riverton is not that service. Riverton is a big community. It can sustain a primary school and a high school. If we can't have that before school and after school care, and both Sheree and I have teaching backgrounds, I think we need to ask, why is that all learned and rectified really quickly? I think workforce can be a barrier. I work with Tom Benning, who is the federal member for this area, because the federal oversight on childcare centres is a challenge. He's done some analysis to identify that the threshold for childcare is about a population of 4,000. Anything less than that, you're not going to have it. And Riverton's knocking on the door of, we're big enough to expect more of the services we see other equivalent towns have. So to lose something that you valued, that kept you at work, that put money, towards bills and food on the table, I'm sure resonates with everyone here, and you've got 4 of us to approach if you want some more local advocacy on that. But as your local member, I will follow that up tomorrow.
Thank you all. Have we got another question?
It's Alan Grant from Auburn. You've all made promises on what you're going to do when you get into power. I wonder how you even you take a look at the Liberal Party. In 1997, John Olsen promised not to sell the GPSA. In 1999, he sold the GPSA. And he privatised the buses. And I thought he privatised the trains. The Liberal Party, with all their promises, I can't trust them. You can't trust what they say. The Labor Party, on the other hand, they're not bad attracting sporting events and stuff. But what alarms me about them is the depth that they're at. Because we're going to end up in a couple of years' time with $48.7 billion in debt. And it's growing all the time. And it's only even promised all we like about it. We're going to pay this and pay that. How is that under the sun again? And money in the debt, who is saying before you? I am not happy with the way you're playing that. I know you've had a surplus in the budget for the last few budgets, fine. But that doesn't mean you're going to bring down the state debt. And the state debt needs to be reduced. It has to be. And another thing you all go on about electricity. What are you going to do to give us electricity? The electricity is being turned off or going off from York Peninsula or Big North Road. Ever since the Liberal government sold out the authority by Hong Kong.
So I think you've got a question there. So around electricity pricing and reliability.
Yeah, well, when they sold it off, AGL in 2003 put the price up 23.7%. Like that. They only part of the consortium anyway. So, what are you going to do? Can you do anything now about SA networks to actually bring this price down and don't look at these turbines and stuff? Because that isn't working. You've got to turn it off and reduce cost. And that's the fallacy as well. I mean, you've got turbines that you're bringing in from China. How do they make them over there? They burn out coal. They burn out coal over there. I've seen it go out in the millions of tons out of Queensland. Over to China. To make these windmills, we buy them and bring them back in and we say, oh, look,
So
we're doing good to the planet.
let's hear from the candidates. We'll hear from the candidates on electricity pricing and reliability. What will you do if you're elected on electricity pricing and reliability? We'll actually start with David, because we just started. Penny and Tony, so we'll go with David.
Thanks, Al. I don't think I've promised anything yet, other than my effort and my commitment to listening and trying for you. And you won't hear me make a promise or a commitment to spending X money and fixing any problems. I'll just try. So I think that's your first question. Second question, you're 100% right. It was mentioned here a week ago. We send coal to China, so that China can make coal-fired power stations, so that they have cheap electricity to make all the solar panels and power lines and everything else that they then ship back here, so that we can put them up and then charge you a lot more for your energy. Figure it out. Okay? Doesn't make sense. So that's the solution to energy prices, is stopping that. It's a business. Someone's making money out of it, and it's definitely not us, it's definitely not you. And on the pricing, and I hope I'm wrong. I absolutely hope everything that I think is going wrong, I hope I'm wrong. I'll be the first person to sit in front of a room in 5 years' time or 10 years' time and go, I got it wrong. Thank God I got it wrong. Eventually, if renewable energy continues tracking towards net zero, eventually they will be able to say that your energy is the cheapest energy. Possibly we'll get there eventually. By that stage, we'll be paying probably 200-300% more than what we're currently paying over that period. And have you ever known any retailer, any wholesaler, any government to then say, okay, now we're going to go backwards? No. Let's be realistic. So the price will stop going up at the trajectory that it currently is, but it's not coming down. So you're paying now for the infrastructure that maybe a generation in 30, 40 years' time may gain benefit from. We're very clear. Net zero's got very clear. If you don't like it, don't vote for me. Because I ain't going to change my mind.
Sheree.
Thanks for your question, Alan, and thanks for bringing a new topic to what has been a pretty robust conversation tonight. I think debt is an important factor to talk about, and we know that we as a state are going to surpass 47 billion in the next few years. So you referenced the sale of the power networks in the 90s, and most people are looking at it in the story will also understand that that sale was to pay down the state debt we accrued because the state bank had crashed under a Labor government. So heaven forbid when we hit $50 billion, we have governments considering what else they'll need to sell to pay the debt for our next generation.
I'll address the first question you asked, about debt. And why the debt has increased. You also need to understand that debt in the infrastructure. About all our possible, and also transport projects costing more money. So you may hear this before, there's a difference between good debt and bad debt. Bad debt is obviously day to day to pay your daily bills. And you yourself said we're running surpluses, which means not actually increasing bad debt. We actually are paying our daily bills, and we are investing in infrastructure. We need to invest in new hospitals. We need to invest in transport projects. We do need to invest in schools, across the state. They're important things because they impact on the future of our state. The best barometer, in my view, and it's not a personal view, is whether your debt is sustainable and reasonable, is to see how the rest of the world sees it. And recently, we maintained, if like our rating internationally by people who look at our debt, not the government, these people independently, internationally, all governments around the world, including our state government, Victoria, etc. Not disagree with that. We know we did, should be, but we actually have a stable rating. And that's a good thing because it means those people who independently look at us saying that we actually are already good things, which is infrastructure, and secondly, we actually manage our day-to-day bills reasonably well because we manage services which we acknowledge. In terms of energy prices, we are part of National Grid, and most of the National Grid is privatised, and because there are private monopolies, they are regulated through complicated schemes, which we understand. But they do see the biggest cost of our electricity bill is actually delivering power from source to you, and what falls in lines. The only way you're going to cut costs is to reduce maintenance and expand that network, which means a less reliable network. And so, if we want our power when we need it, electricity, shops and things like that, things of nature, we need to keep investing in our networks to maintain those. Having said that, whether you like net zero or not, renewable energy is being shown right across the world. Over time, it is costing money in the future. We can pretend it's not happening. Reality is being shown, and some days we actually provide our energy is spent by 100% renewable energy, and so we can do it more efficiently. So without having to increase prices, it's not each project to push up prices. It's not a really to push up prices.
Thank you. We've got time for 2 short questions. increase guidelines and that.
Yeah, I have to think about that because I was having trouble there. What the main concern is, I think energy prices, well, renewable energy is the focus of the Labour and Liberal government, and it is what they really hammer home around global warming and moving to net zero. The reality with the renewables is that they are an unreliable energy source, and Australian infrastructure in the renewable sector is nowhere near where it needs to be in order to supply the entire market with all of the energy it needs. So we are a long way from being in a position where we can rely on purely renewable energy. So I think as nuclear energy is so unpopular, we would have to perhaps look at the traditional coal form of energy to make sure that there's always enough energy available to supply the market. And I think it would be better if governments address the fact that the coal industry is not the only industry driving global warming. We also got the logistical industry, and I thought before the agriculture, and especially the agriculture industry, driving global warming. So we really need to take a much more holistic approach to how we're dealing with these issues and stop focusing on coal as being the only way that we can deal with the environmental issues that we're dealing with.
I'm Cheryl Clark from Riverton. My question's around health services. How will your parties attract doctors who bulk bill you only need your Medicare card and not your credit card? Everywhere I ran around the other day, they did not bulk bill.
Thank you for the question. I will start down at your end, Tony.
I'll try to answer this question because this is people who is not very people, and also we can try to stack up quite some incentives. Practices of business, you can't direct practice to a certain place. But one of the things which impacts on doctors is things like where they can't offer a town, is housing, education, all right, things we look for. So rather than supporting doctors, we need to understand what we do, make sure that doctors have an environment where they come to see their families, obviously they need some more communities, but they have also really including school care, etc. They don't have any of those support services, they might come, we seem to do all that work, and that's been shown. The commissioners have tried to make initiatives there, both with some funding from state grants, but also councils, where they've actually addressed all the issues and they've attracted some doctors. Doctors also, one of the big things we talk about is professional development. We know, so we need to also use technology to be able to be up to date with their profession, because they like to do their job work. So there's no easy solution for what balance all the solutions with the result. But there's more we can do. Sure.
Yeah, so I think the issue is a bit like the Osh one, in that there is attracting quality staff to that area, and as a teacher, I've definitely felt disappointed with the lack of incentives that are offered to professionals to relocate and move themselves out to the country. So I think there really needs to be looking at the incentives that are provided to healthcare, to education professionals, to make it much more attractive for them to come out to the country. I know that Riverton, Southwood are also within 100 kilometres of the city centre, so that means that the state government won't even consider that country. So I think bringing that boundary a bit forward, so that Riverton are still being classed as regional areas, at least in terms of if we need to bring healthcare professionals, education professionals here, that they're being financially incentivised.
I'm sure I saw, and it may have been on that right-wing extremist TV station, Sky News, that may not be true, that our Prime Minister running around with some green cards, and he told us 8 months ago saying nobody will pay anymore. Well, it seemed like a big enough. There is a simple solution to this, and it really is. Current government won't like it, but there is a simple solution. Can't get doctors up here into country regions for one main reason, because they want to wine and dine with their other millionaire mates in Burnside or in Northern or whatever, so they won't come to the country. Not knowing the extravagant lifestyle they can live in the country, buying their house and block of land for a quarter of the price. Simple solution is control immigration. Absolutely the simplest thing we can possibly do. Instead of opening our borders to whoever, whenever want to come in, is actually specify if you are a doctor and you are willing to commit to spending whatever the period might be, 5 years, 10 years, in a country, regional community, then guess what? You're now at the top of the list. Okay? That's not racist. Call me racist, but that's not racist. That's allowing somebody who is willing to make a commitment to making our country and our country communities better. And it works. I was fortunate enough last Australia Day to see a new citizen and citizenship ceremony in our home. He was Indian and he was a doctor. And for whatever reason, he chose the area to live in and absolutely loves it. Would not move if you tried to force him. So you get them into the communities, and that's their first experience in Australia. I'll stay. I'll very quickly stay, become part of the community. Their kids will play cricket with your kids. They'll get involved with the local Lions Club, whatever it may be. So there is a simple solution. But again, is there a desire and is there an agenda to fix that? Ready?
Thank you, Cheryl, very much for that question. I think we'll round out this evening, and I've been watching you nodding along to all the conversations this evening. You're very engaged, and health is a really important question for us to finish the night on. For all of us that are fortunate enough to have access to a doctor at a clinic in a country town, I'm sure that you have a good relationship with that doctor. We have drifted from continuity of care in our lifetime where it was always the same doctor, and they age with us to seeing sometimes a different doctor. If you're lucky enough to have a clinic that has more than one, more than half a day. Freeland doesn't have a clinic at all. Malala has only just been able to re-establish itself. We're hearing more and more across the state about the absence of doctors. We have a workforce crisis in health. I'm speaking to you now as the Shadow Minister for Regional Health. The Liberal Party has tasked me to keep an eye on all the country areas across our state for the standard of care we should expect when we live in the country. And what is clear is that our postcode determines the level of access to health care. What we're going to do, what we've committed to, is to understand the workforce crisis. I disagree that doctors don't want to live and practice in our communities. They do. They play sport, their kids go to school, they spend their money at the local businesses, and they are part of our communities. Some of them have been here for decades. They have gone away to study and come back. But they are running a business, and the cost of their business has gone up, and they're passing it we are going to scrap a payroll tax your GP has to pay to the government. That GP payroll tax is being passed on with double tap through consults. We're going to scrap the tax. It is a barrier to patients being able to access healthcare close to home. We're also going to expand in a trial access to GPs after hours, so more clinics being incentivised, funded to stay open later and on the weekends. Because we don't want you in a car travelling to court. We want you to be able to access that GP here. We are also committed to incentivising GPs to choose rural South Australia for their careers. We know that housing is one of the barriers because they often have a partner. That partner needs a job. There's probably children and they need school and they start to look at the services. So here we are tonight, and I'll round out on this, whether it's housing, road infrastructure, water security, childcare, after school care, education opportunities, investing in our workforce and keeping our economy strong. These are all the things that we care about. We know because they are the questions that you put to us this evening. Is it all going well? No. Is there an opportunity at the election in 40 days' time to cast your vote and choose something different? Yes. Thank you very much, Cheryl, for your question.
Thank you all. We just want to jump the gun. You can just round up nicely. Thanks all for your questions tonight. We're going to finish with a final pitch from the candidates. So maximum 5 minutes. You tell the voters why they should vote for you. We're going to start with David.
Thank you. I'm feeling bullied. You go first. I'll be quick. You see what I am? Simple. I don't think I promised you anything tonight that I can't deliver. I hope that matters. I'm happy to talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere. More than happy to stand in the paddock, in the corner of the pub, footy on Saturday, who cares? I'm there to fight for what I believe our region needs and is not getting. I think Penny put it quite well. This is what I'm saying to everyone. Everyone speaking to communities is if you are happy with how things currently are, then vote the same way as you always have. I don't care what you want. Vote whatever you want, and I will respect your decision and your choice. And on March 22nd, if I'm not elected, I'll go back to what I was doing and move on in life. And I'll still talk to you if I'm with you, footy in my phone, and otherwise. But if you're happy, then stick with it. If you're not happy, then now's the time to make a change. 4 years, you get the choice again. So if you don't get it right, you've got 4 years to then make a different choice in 4 years' time. But if you don't, you know what you're going to get. And all due respect, because I'll be up front, this is who I voted for 4 years ago. And Penny knows that. Okay? She knows who I voted for her 4 years ago, and I voted in 35 years. Okay? Don't lie from it. But I think we need something different in our region. And that's why.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. I won't repeat what I've talked about already tonight. What I'm probably saying is very simply, who you vote for on the 21st of March, if your test is that not, you can't have everything at that moment, that's fine. You're right, I'm sure I'll pay anybody who's happy with everything that happens in our society today. The real test is, when you look at your heart, you believe you'll turn your party into better. You really believe that makes you better based on what you do tonight. You've heard a lot of comments. You've heard a lot of different comments. But we've not actually heard many straightforward, practical, rule solution
you've got 4 choices in front of you at the next election, and by the time you get to the ballot paper, there may be more candidates to consider. We're lucky to live in this country where we have that choice. And 4 years ago, this community chose me. It will be a test of my advocacy on your behalf as to whether there's an opportunity for me to be returned to keep that work going. I don't think that I'm finished yet representing you in Parliament. There are a lot of layers to the conversations we've had tonight. There are local projects and services that we've lost and we want to get them back. There are services we think government should be delivering that we don't have, that we think we are worthy of and that we've paid for and worked for. And there are fights worth having, and we're in a few. And I think I've been that person for you in Parliament. The government of the day and how it spends our taxes on us is a matter for the government to account for. But you still need local champions at the local level. And I think that I am that person. I am local like you. I have been fighting for your community when a virus hit our tomato growers on the Adelaide Plains. I have been fighting for you in Parliament when the government refused to use the word D, the D word for drought. What we did from opposition was to unlock millions of dollars, would never be enough, but to bring reprieve. I've been fighting for grape growers. I've been fighting for 6 helipads attached to hospitals to allow pilots to land. I'm fighting for regional health. I'm fighting for doctors. I'm fighting for safety in schools where we've seen buildings riddled with asbestos stickers, mould on ceilings, and the health of our teachers and students at risk. I stand by the fights that I've been having in Parliament because that's what you elected me to do. Some might classify it as noise. I consider it as essential.
Thank you. That concludes the floor tonight.
Yes, yes, so I've never as a candidate before, as I said, and I don't think Justin Party has run in this area, either the old ones or the new ones. And many might have heard the party tonight, and you're probably thinking, what the hell is someone from another party doing running in our farming area and largely agricultural farming area? And it would seem pretty unusual, but as I said, I really wanted to bring to the table true honesty and education around our drought issues, around our environmental issues, and that means telling people things that they don't necessarily want to hear, but we need to be talking about them and we need to be bringing them into our solutions on how we're going to address them. Otherwise, all that politicians are doing is just telling you what you want to hear, but they're not actually giving you actions, or they're not sending you more money in ways that are really going to effectively deal with the problem. And I think we know this, and I think this is why it's coming into a lack of trust towards the political parties, and we don't really feel that we can take them on face value anymore from what I'm saying. So I would like to bring back a bit more trust, but also bring in more transparency around what are the causes to the issues that we're facing and how we come up with the best solutions to those problems, especially the environmental problems that we're dealing with.
Thank you. That actually does conclude now. Thanks to the candidates for putting up with lots of questions across the various array of topics. I've got a GPSA hat for you all. And thanks everyone for coming out and asking